When we moved to Mexico, people back home kept warning us about the same things over and over.
And then we realized a lot of these are myths that just won't die.
Today we're busting the top 10 myths about Mexico, and trust us, some of these will surprise you, so let's get started.
Let's start with one of the biggest myths of all, that Mexico is dangerous everywhere.
This is one of the ones that we've heard the most before moving here, and even till this day. Friends and family warned us like we were stepping into a war zone. I remember my family being so afraid of us moving to Mexico because they said it was going to be so dangerous. But even my father, who's Mexican, was a little uneasy.
And it still comes up all the time in our YouTube comments and in our one-on-one calls. People see protests in Mexico City, or like the recent one at the Cabo airport, and they think the whole country is shut down or that it might shut down while they're here.
Or they read the travel advisories on the US government websites. Those warnings will tell you to avoid certain states entirely because of crime. But imagine this, there's a mass shooting in your city or gang violence in your part of the state, and suddenly another country is telling its citizens to stay away from the whole state. Or don't travel to Michigan because of the high murder rate in Detroit. It doesn't make any sense.
The reality is that most of Mexico looks a lot more like moms dropping kids off at school, people opening their shops, teens hanging out at plazas, and retirees walking their dogs.
Sure, there are areas with problems, just like in some parts of Chicago, Los Angeles, or New York, but to paint the entire country as dangerous, that's just lazy thinking.
We've lived here for almost 17 years. We've traveled across the country, and while we take normal precautions, daily life here is not about dodging bullets or cartels around every corner. In fact, we've never encountered anything like that.
So we're not saying that it's safe everywhere in Mexico at all times. No, it's just not. It's impossible. It's a very big country. But in our day-to-day lives, we feel safe where we are, in our neighborhood, and with the things that we do. I feel safe here. How do you feel?
I feel completely safe. I stay aware of the situation around the city and around the country, but I live my life. I don't even think about danger really in my day-to-day life or every moment of my day. It's quite normal. It's very, very similar to how it was when we lived back in San Francisco.
So although you have to be aware and you do have to pay attention, it's not dangerous everywhere in Mexico like people paint it out to be. We know people who avoid visiting the monarch butterfly sanctuaries in the winter because the US State Department advised them to avoid the state of Michoacan. The danger myth is often the very thing that keeps people from discovering the beauty, culture, and everyday normal life that Mexico actually offers.
Another big myth is that every Mexican dreams of moving to the United States.
This comes up all the time in our comments. People will say, why would anyone want to move to Mexico when all the Mexicans are leaving? There's this assumption that the only goal is to get north of the border, but that's just not the reality.
Today, many Mexicans are building their futures right here in Mexico. They're starting tech companies in Guadalajara, running family restaurants in Oaxaca, manufacturing electric vehicles in Sonora, or raising kids in modern gated communities in Querétaro.
And it's not out of necessity, it's out of choice. Younger generations especially are proud of their culture, proud of their communities, and they see plenty of opportunity right here in Mexico.
And here's the other side people forget. Many from around the world are actually finding their American dream right here in Mexico. We've seen an influx of Chinese immigrants opening shops and restaurants in local markets, and people from across Latin America coming in search of a better life here.
On our recent trip to Cabo, we met several Venezuelans working in the hospitality industry. Servers at restaurants we frequented and gardeners at the condominium complex where we stayed. For them, Mexico represents opportunity, the same way the US once did for so many others.
Of course, some Mexicans do move to the United States, just like people from the States or Europe move abroad, just like we did. But to say that everyone wants to leave Mexico, that's simply not true.
In fact, we've had people tell us directly, why would I want to leave? My family's here, my friends are here, my life is here. For them, the so-called American dream has been replaced with their own version of success right here in Mexico.
This one makes us shake our heads because our personal experience with the private Mexican healthcare here has been the exact opposite. When we've needed care here, it's felt more like checking into a boutique hotel than a hospital.
So let me give you a tour of my hospital room. As you can see, it's pretty large. Over here, there's actually a safe where we're gonna be able to put our personal items. There's little cubbies for storage. This is my table to eat on, my bed, my recovery chair. There's a table over there with 2 chairs, beautiful TV. They gave us a remote too, so we get to watch some TV. That's the bed where Francisco is gonna sleep over there. This looks like a hotel room is what it feels like. They even are giving me some slippers to wear. Check out the bathroom.
It's big.
I mean, it feels like a hotel room with shower amenities and a toothbrush and toothpaste.
The facilities are modern, the equipment is up to date, and the doctors are board certified and highly trained. Many studied or did their residencies in the US, Canada, or Europe. If you're interested, we did a video about a recent experience we had, and we'll link it here.
And the cost difference is shocking too. A procedure that could bankrupt you in the United States might be just a fraction of the price here, without sacrificing quality.
We've had several consultations where the doctor gave us their personal cell phone numbers and told us to text them anytime. Try getting that kind of access back in the States.
Never, that would never happen.
No. In fact, my ear, nose, and throat doctor, I have her on WhatsApp, and whenever I need her, I just text her and I tell her this is what's happening, and she'll say either do this or come in and see me, and it's like a private line to the doctor, which it's unheard of.
Yeah, every doctor that you've seen lately has given you
Yeah,
their WhatsApp
once you
number.
become their patient and you're in their care, then they give you their personal number and you can contact them at any time. So that's pretty incredible.
Now, public healthcare, however, can be hit or miss, just like public systems everywhere. But private healthcare in Mexico is world class. It's one of the reasons why so many medical tourists and retirees choose to come here.
The bottom line, there have been horror stories, especially with questionable plastic surgery clinics close to the border. But if you know where to go, you can get excellent care in Mexico, and often with better service than you'd expect back home.
Another myth we hear all the time is that Mexico is always hot.
A lot of people picture us sweating year-round like the whole country is one giant beach resort. But Mexico is really huge, and the climates here are incredibly diverse. In fact, summer in San Miguel de Allende is probably one of the most beautiful times to be here because it's our rainy season. People think, oh, rainy season, it's raining every day and you can't go out and it's freezing outside. No, our rainy season is, it's warm all day, it rains in the afternoons, the days are cool.
Yeah.
The air is clear, everything is green and lush and growing. And honestly, San Miguel de Allende in the summertime, you might want to consider coming next year because it truly is such a beautiful time to be here. It's my favorite time of year.
Our slow season at the inn
Yeah.
is summertime because people think that it's just like the coasts. And yes, the coasts are hot right now.
Yeah.
You don't want to be at the beaches in the summertime, but the interior of Mexico is a whole other story.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. You have to come in the summertime one year.
Yeah, so sure, the beaches can be hot and humid, but for example, Mexico City, San Miguel de Allende, and other interior towns like Guadalajara and Puebla and gosh, so many, feel like spring almost year round because of the altitude.
And head into the mountains and it can get downright cold. Here in San Miguel de Allende in winter, once the sun goes down, you need a coat, gloves, and a scarf, which I actually really enjoy. The summers, like right now that we're filming, are really pleasant with daily highs in the upper 70s or low 80s and very low humidity. It's a really great time of the year.
In fact, right now it's 4:15 and it's 80 degrees and dry. That's the key.
And today is August 20th that we're filming this video.
One of the wildest things about Mexico is the diversity of microclimates.
It's such a nice drive from here to Troncones, which is the beach that a lot of us like to go to from here, because you start your drive here in the semi-desert with lots of cactus everywhere along your drive. And then you hit Michoacan with all the pine forests and that beautiful area. And then you start to get to the state of Guerrero, and then you start seeing banana trees and palm trees, and you can do this all in one day in one drive. It's pretty amazing. So no, Mexico isn't just beaches and sunburns. Depending on where you live or you travel, you might need flip-flops or you might need a down jacket. You just never know.
That's the beauty of this country. Whatever climate you're looking for, tropical, dry desert, cool mountain air, you can find it here.
Another myth that we hear is that Mexico is just a small country with nothing but beaches.
This one always surprises us because Mexico is actually massive. It's the 14th largest country in the world, bigger than every country in the European Union, nearly 3 times the size of Texas, and almost 5 times the size of California.
I think when people think of Mexico, they always think of the coastal cities and towns near the beaches. And no one really goes to the interior of Mexico and sees the colonial heartland where we live. And it's such a beautiful area. But when you say, I live in San Miguel de Allende, they say, where's that? What beach is it near? Well, no, we're not near the beach at all. We're way in the center of the country. And people just don't know a lot about it. And the geography is just as impressive. Yes, there are stunning beaches, but Mexico also has some of the tallest mountains in North America, sprawling deserts, lush jungles, and vibrant cities that feel like cultural capitals. One of our favorite examples is the Copper Canyon in Chihuahua. A lot of people don't realize it's 4 times bigger and slightly deeper than the Grand Canyon is in the United States.
Have you heard of the Copper Canyon? Leave us a comment if this is the first time you're hearing of it. Or think about cities like Mérida, its colonial history and Mayan roots, or Monterrey, which is surrounded by jagged mountains. We could see those when we're flying to the United States from here. They're pretty amazing. Monterrey has a booming business scene. This country is incredibly diverse, far beyond just surf and sand.
So the reality? Mexico is not some tiny beach resort. It's a country the size of a continent with landscapes and lifestyles as varied as anywhere in the world.
Another myth we hear is that Mexico is somehow behind when it comes to technology.
This couldn't be further from the truth. Mexico has one of the fastest growing tech sectors in Latin America. Cities like Guadalajara are often called the Silicon Valley of Mexico, with global companies like Intel, Oracle, and IBM running major operations here.
And everyday life, it's just as high-tech as in the United States. We pay our bills online when the sites cooperate.
Yeah.
Transfer money instantly with apps like Spay, and pay for everyday items with credit cards, even at our neighborhood markets. Don't get us wrong, cash is still king here. We'll often get better prices when we pay in cash, but at least there's that option. And now we're starting to even see QR code payments at places like OXXO and apps like Cody and others.
E-commerce is booming too. Amazon.mx delivers to our door or to a drop point in San Miguel almost as quickly as in the US. Then there's Mercado Libre, basically the Latin American version of Amazon, and AliExpress, where we can get products shipped directly from China. Now, while they might skip US tariffs, Mexico adds its own 20% import tax, plus a 16% value-added tax, so we still have to watch out for that.
And don't forget, Mexico is a leader in some surprising industries. It's one of the biggest producers of aerospace parts for Boeing and Airbus. It's manufacturing electrical vehicles and high-tech medical equipment. And it's one of the largest fintech ecosystems in all of Latin America.
So the reality? Mexico isn't behind on tech. It's innovating, it's advancing, and in many ways, it's ahead of the curve compared to what people expect.
Another myth we hear all the time is that Mexican food is just nachos and burritos.
This one makes us laugh because that's really more Tex-Mex than true Mexican cuisine. Authentic Mexican food is recognized by UNESCO as part of the world's intangible cultural heritage. It's that important and unique.
The diversity of food here is incredible. From rich chocolatey moles of Oaxaca to the fresh ceviches of the coasts to the barbacoa slow-cooked in underground pits in Hidalgo, each region has its own culinary identity.
Barbacoa, that sounds good. I'm hungry. And it's just not about flavors. Food here is deeply tied to culture, traditions, and even spirituality. Think of tamales for Christmas, chiles en nogada for Mexican Independence Day, or pan de muerto baked for Day of the Dead.
Even everyday staples are amazing. Freshly made tortillas, endless varieties of salsas, aguas frescas, and street foods that can rival gourmet dining. All made from scratch, often right in front of you.
It's amazing how you can take the same ingredients and then make so many different dishes out of the same. Even salsas, for example, with the chilies and the onion and the garlic and the tomatoes, but yet you combine them differently and you come up with something different every time.
Yeah, it's endless, infinite combinations.
So if your idea of Mexican food is just tacos and nachos, you're missing out on one of the richest, most flavorful cuisines in the world. And yes, we love tacos too, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, we're going to be going to Mexico City, and I have a bunch of taco places that I want to try. I'm actually compiling a list, and I can't wait for us to go in October.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another myth we hear all the time is that foreigners can't own property in Mexico.
The reality is, yes, you can. Foreigners buy property here all the time. The confusion usually comes from what's called the restricted zone. That's land within 50 kilometers of the coast or 100 kilometers of the border.
In those areas, you can't directly hold the title in your name, but there's a well-established legal mechanism called fideicomiso, basically a bank trust that holds the title on your behalf. It's safe, it's renewable, and it gives you all the rights of ownership.
Outside the restricted zone, you can hold the title directly in your own name, no trust needed. That includes popular places like San Miguel de Allende, Guadalajara, Mexico City, and many inland towns.
Another option for some people is to set up a Mexican corporation to hold the property. It's easier to do than you think, but for most residential buyers, the fideicomiso or direct ownership is the straightforward path.
The key is working with a reputable notario, a type of lawyer, and a real estate professional because, like anywhere, you want to be sure your transaction is done properly. But rest assured, foreigners own plenty of homes here legally and securely.
Another myth we hear is that all Mexicans are the same culturally, like there's just one Mexican identity.
The reality is, Mexico is one of the most culturally diverse countries in the world. There are over 60 recognized indigenous groups here, each with their own language, traditions, and food. And I would say even accents from the north to the central part to the south are completely different. Just like in the United States, how there's different accents, but everyone speaks English, same here.
Yeah, even the Spanish spoken here is not the same everywhere. The accent, the slang, the everyday words can change dramatically depending on whether you're in the north, the center, or the south of the country.
And it's not just indigenous heritage. You also see strong European, African, and Middle Eastern influences in the food, architecture, and music, especially in coastal regions and big cities.
Think about how different it feels visiting Oaxaca versus Monterrey, or Mérida versus Tijuana. The traditions, the food, the pace of life, it can feel like you're visiting completely different countries. It really can.
That's one of the reasons why traveling across Mexico is so fascinating. It's not one uniform culture, but a mosaic of histories and traditions woven together.
The last myth we'll tackle in this video is that Day of the Dead is just Mexican Halloween.
This one couldn't be more wrong. Dia de Muertos is a completely different tradition with deep spiritual and cultural meaning. It's not about scares or candy, it's about honoring and remembering loved ones who have passed away. Completely different meaning.
Completely. Families create altars called ofrendas, decorated with marigolds, candles, food, and personal items. The belief is that the spirits of loved ones return to visit during these days.
It's a blend of pre-Hispanic, indigenous traditions, and Catholic influences. And it's so unique that UNESCO recognized it as part of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity.
Sure, some modern celebrations include parades and costumes, especially after movies like Coco and Spectre brought global attention. But at its core, this holiday is about family, remembrance, and celebrating the cycle of life and death.
So no, Day of the Dead is not Mexican Halloween. It's one of the most beautiful traditions that you'll ever experience, full of love, memory, spirituality, and color.
So how many of these myths did you believe before watching?
Let us know in the comments, and if you want to go deeper, check out our other videos about life in Mexico.
And if you're planning a trip or even a move, we've got guides and one-on-one consultations to help. Links are in the description below.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.